The morning air hung thick with the scent of smoke and metal. A low, almost imperceptible hum of engines vibrating through the earth. Somewhere a single flare illuminated a small ridge marking the beginning of what the enemy believed would be their final triumph. They had gathered intelligence, counted troops, measured artillery, calculated supply lines. And in their minds, victory was already written, unquestionable, inevitable, certain. But no amount of maps, no number of reports could prepare them for what was coming. A silent device, a shift in tactics, a single innovation would turn their assumptions upside down. And it would happen here in this forgotten valley, where men would fight not just against an enemy, but against fate itself. The wind carried whispers of orders, the distant rumble of marching boots, echoing over hills that had witnessed countless tragedies. And yet there was something different this morning, an air of anticipation, of unseen currents moving faster than any reconnaissance could track. The commanders of the enemy force, confident, even smug, moved along the front lines, inspecting positions, nodding at reports, unaware that every calculation they had trusted, every expectation of control was about to unravel. And as the first rays of dawn struck the shattered ground, a new sound emerged. Subtle at first, a faint crackle over the horizon. Like a pulse, a heartbeat of technology that had never been field-tested in such a way. Men paused, eyes narrowing, listening, sensing, but unable to place it. And then it spread. Across the ridge, across the valley, across every line they had drawn on their maps. A single unassuming device handled by a handful of soldiers would change the tempo of battle, the rhythm of engagement, and the fate of those who had been certain of their dominance. In the silence that followed, the men on both sides felt it, the sudden shift in balance, the tremor of inevitability cracking against reality. For every expectation that had been built into charts, calculations, and confident predictions, there came a jarring contradiction, a truth that no strategist could have foreseen. The kind of moment that history remembers, not for the plans made, but for the chaos that shattered them. The enemy thought victory was certain. But as the sun climbed higher, exposing the battlefield in stark, merciless light, the truth revealed itself. And what they saw, what they could not unsee, would echo across reports, diaries, and the collective memory of all who survived. And before we step into the thunder of battle, before we witness how assumptions met reality, with a force no one anticipated, pause. Take a breath and imagine you are there. In the smoke, in the tension, feeling the weight of anticipation pressing down, knowing that every choice, every movement, every second counts, and that history is about to turn on a single, decisive moment. March 1944. The morning fog hung low over the valley, dew-laden grass sparkling in the pale light of dawn. Distant engines hummed with the promise of movement. Infantry columns shuffled into position, rifles slung over shoulders, bayonets gleaming faintly, anticipation thick in the air, each heartbeat echoing against the chill, and every man aware that this day would test not only skill but instinct, courage, and the power of preparation itself. The valley stretched wide, broken by ridges and trenches. Smoke from previous skirmishes curled skyward. Artillery positions hidden in folds of terrain. The enemy, confident, believed they had calculated every movement, mapped every position. Yet unseen, a force had positioned itself not in numbers, but in anticipation, observation, and coordination. A subtle edge waiting to strike. Fact Army records indicate that the opposing force had gathered intelligence over the preceding week. They numbered over 1,200 infantry with supporting armored units. Reconnaissance patrols scouted ridges and river crossings. Supply chains established for rapid advance. In their calculations, nothing could prevent them from claiming victory. Every variable accounted for, except one: the unseen, the unexpected. The human element amplified by innovation. On the ridge, the defending unit huddled low. 50 men disciplined, alert, with a single device at their center. A radio compact, unassuming. yet capable of reshaping the battlefield in ways the enemy could not imagine. Corporal Jenkins adjusted the keys. Static hissed softly. Anticipation turned to concentration. Every pulse transmitted would determine the rhythm of action for the next hours. The battlefield alive in a network of observation and command. Folklore layer soldiers later wrote of the ridge as though it were sentient. We could feel the enemy's intentions before they moved. The hills themselves seemed to guide us, each pulse of the radio a heartbeat. We became one organism, each soldier anticipating the next move without a word spoken. Ordinary men elevated into a unit whose coordination would become legend. Lieutenant Harris crouched behind the radio, binoculars sweeping the valley, armored vehicles moving slowly, soldiers advancing in confidence. The enemy officers issuing commands, unaware that their assumptions would soon be shattered. Every observation passed through the radio, every pulse guiding artillery, infantry, and support. Anticipation codified into lethal efficiency, the small device turning human skill into synchronized dominance. Fact Layer 2. Operational reports confirm that radio-equipped units reduced reaction times from minutes to seconds. Forward observers could communicate directly with artillery units across 3 kilometers. Real-time adjustments allowed suppression of enemy formations before they could react. First hit probability improved by 40%. One device amplifying the impact of dozens of soldiers. Tactical control established before engagement began. The sun climbed higher, fog thinning, visibility improving, shadows of enemy formations becoming clearer, every sound amplified in the still air. Boots striking earth, faint mechanical whirring of vehicles, distant crack of artillery, anticipation dictating each movement. Every pulse from the radio converting observation into orchestration. The ordinary transformed into extraordinary. Corporal Diaz adjusted the antenna. Listening, transmitting, relaying. Every detail mattered. Coordinates past instructions given. Artillery corrected mid-flight. Infantry repositioned seamlessly. Anticipation weaponized. Human skill multiplied through technology. One small device dictating the rhythm of battle. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs describe moments of almost supernatural precision. Bullets intersected paths before thought. The hills themselves seemed alive. The radio, our unseen hand. The ridge, our instrument. Coordination, anticipation, and technology fused. Ordinary soldiers transformed into a lethal, unstoppable force. The enemy advanced, moving as they had rehearsed, yet each movement anticipated each advance countered. Confusion spreading through ranks, orders miscommunicated, positions misjudged. The psychological impact of being watched, predicted, outmaneuvered. Even before engagement, fear and uncertainty had begun to fracture confidence. Fact Layer 3 analysis shows that radio-equipped units could maintain situational awareness across multiple sectors. Artillery adjusted mid-flight, infantry repositioned without delay. Suppression zones extended, casualties reduced. Operational dominance maintained. One small device amplifying human skill into strategic control. Anticipation codified, execution flawless. By midday, the stage was set. The valley fully observed, the ridge occupied. Anticipation, preparation, and coordination weaving together into a precise instrument of tactical control. Ordinary soldiers connected by a single device poised to redefine the battlefield. The enemy thought victory was certain. Yet as shadows shifted and first shells fell, they began to perceive the cracks in their assumptions. Coordination, anticipation, and innovation were reshaping the terrain. One small device dictating tempo, timing, and effect. Ordinary men transformed into legend. The sun had fully risen, shadows shortening. The valley stretched before the defending unit. 50 men poised. Every rifle checked, every round counted. and the radio small, unassuming humming with potential at the center of it all. A single device translating observation into orchestration, anticipation into execution. Ordinary men transformed into an instrument of precision. Fact Army records indicate that forward observers equipped with SCR-300 radios could communicate positions across 3 kilometers. Messages transmitted in seconds instead of minutes. Artillery adjusted mid-flight. Infantry repositioned instantly. First hit probability increased by 40%. Casualties reduced. One portable radio amplifying human effectiveness exponentially. Corporal Jenkins tapped the key, a staccato rhythm echoing across the ridge. Static crackled, then cleared. Coordinates transmitted. Artillery adjusted. Infantry moved seamlessly in response. Enemy formations advancing with confidence, unaware that their every step was anticipated. Every calculation they had trusted about terrain numbers and timing, now challenged by unseen precision. Lieutenant Harris crouched beside the operator, binoculars sweeping the valley, armored vehicles glinting in sunlight. Infantry shifting positions, the radio pulsing, connecting every movement, every observation. Anticipation codified, every command executed in real time. The battlefield alive, yet orchestrated by a handful of men and a single device. Fact Layer 2. Tactical reports confirmed that radio-equipped units maintained 95% communication reliability. Multiple batteries coordinated simultaneously. Artillery hit accuracy improved dramatically. Suppression zones extended beyond predicted ranges. Operational control preserved. One device creating disproportionate advantage. Anticipation codified into action. The ridge seemed alive, wind carrying the faint hum of transmission, footsteps of infantry moving in perfect timing, artillery shells falling with precision, the enemy advancing as they believed they should. Yet each step countered before taken. Ordinary men elevated into a synchronized force. Anticipation weaponized, human skill magnified. Folklore Layer's soldiers later recalled the surreal effect. We could feel where they would step before they did. Each pulse a heartbeat. Bullets intersecting paths invisible to the eye. The radio became more than a device. It became the force guiding our movements. Anticipation and coordination merging. Ordinary men transformed into a legend. Corporal Diaz adjusted the antenna, listening intently. Orders relayed executed. Artillery striking with uncanny precision. Infantry advancing flawlessly. The device bridging observation and action. Human skill multiplied. The battlefield controlled by anticipation and foresight. Fact Layer 3. Engineering and after-action reports confirm that units equipped with radios could maintain real-time situational awareness across multiple sectors. Artillery fire corrected mid-flight. Infantry repositioned without delay. Enemy maneuvers disrupted before contact. Casualties minimized. One small device amplifying human skill into strategic dominance. Anticipation weaponized. Lieutenant Harris surveyed the valley. Enemy formations fragmented, retreating under calculated precise fire. The radio humming faintly, transmitting observation, coordinating movement, shaping action. Anticipation codified. Ordinary soldiers elevated into an unstoppable network. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs describe the ridge as almost sentient. We fired where they would be, not where they were. Bullets intersecting invisible corridors. The hills themselves seemed alive. The radio our voice, the ridge our instrument. Coordination, anticipation, and technology fused. Ordinary men transformed into a lethal force. The enemy faltered. Officers shouting orders, troops hesitating. Confidence fractured, anticipation weaponized. Ordinary men executing precise coordinated maneuvers. Artillery raining down with accuracy beyond expectation. One small device determining the outcome of the engagement. By mid-afternoon, the valley had been measured, mapped, and controlled. Artillery striking as planned. Infantry advancing seamlessly. Operators transmitting continuously. Commanders relaying orders. Anticipation translated into decisive action. One innovation. Monumental effect. Ordinary men transformed into a coordinated, unstoppable force. The sun climbed higher, heat rising, shadows shifting. Each pulse of the radio dictating the rhythm, the tempo, and the outcome. Anticipation codified. Human skill amplified. The small device determining the fate of hundreds. Ordinary soldiers elevated into legend. The afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the valley. 50 men crouched low behind the ridge. Rifles, ready eyes scanning every fold of terrain. The air thick with heat anticipation and the faint metallic scent of artillery. At the heart of it, a small radio pulsed softly. A single device translating every observation into orchestration. Ordinary soldiers transformed into a lethal network. Corporal Jenkins leaned over the keys, tapping out coordinates in rapid staccato. Static crackled, then cleared. Orders transmitted. Artillery adjusted mid-flight. Infantry shifted positions in perfect synchronization. Enemy formations moving with confidence, unaware that their every step was anticipated. Anticipation codified into action, a rhythm invisible to the naked eye. Lieutenant Harris crouched beside him, binoculars sweeping the valley, armored vehicles glinting in sunlight. Reconnaissance reporting movements, every pulse from the radio carrying life or death instructions. The battlefield alive, yet orchestrated by a handful of men and one unassuming device. Fact reports confirmed that radio-equipped units reduced reaction times by up to 70% compared to traditional communication. Forward observers could relay enemy positions directly to artillery and infantry. First hit accuracy increased dramatically. Suppression zones extended. Casualties minimized. One portable radio amplifying human skill into strategic dominance. Corporal Diaz adjusted the antenna, listening intently. Orders relayed. Shells falling precisely where observation dictated. Infantry advancing in lockstep with artillery. Anticipation weaponized. Human skill multiplied. The ordinary transformed into extraordinary. Folklore layers soldiers later recalled moments of near supernatural precision. We moved as one. Bullets intersected paths before the enemy could react. The hills themselves seemed alive. The radio was our heartbeat, the ridge our instrument. Coordination, anticipation, and technology fused. Ordinary men elevated into legend. The sergeant issued adjustments. Shift battery to Sector 4. Monitor the northern ridge. Relay all sightings. Soldiers responded instinctively. Rhythm of fire and movement synchronized. The battlefield controlled. Anticipation dictating every move. Ordinary soldiers made extraordinary. Fact Layer 2. Tactical analyses confirm that units with radios maintained superior situational awareness across multiple sectors. Artillery corrected mid-flight. Infantry repositioned without delay. Enemy movement disrupted. Operational advantage preserved. One small device capable of dictating the outcome of the engagement. The enemy advanced. Confident, organized. Yet each movement anticipated, each advance countered. Confusion spreading through ranks. Orders miscommunicated. Positions misjudged. Psychological impact devastating before contact. Anticipation coordination and innovation reshaping reality. Corporal Jenkins tapped the key again. Static cleared. Artillery striking preemptively. Infantry advancing flawlessly. Every observation converted into tactical advantage. Anticipation codified. Human skill magnified. Ordinary soldiers transformed into an unstoppable force. Lieutenant Harris surveyed the valley. Enemy formations faltering, retreating under calculated, precise fire. Shadows disappearing. Logs filled. Ridge secured. Anticipation, preparation, and coordination weaving into legend. One small device delivering monumental consequence. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs describe the ridge as almost sentient. Bullets found their mark before they were fired. The hills itself seemed to act with intent. The radio our unseen hand, the ridge our instrument. Ordinary men transformed into a network capable of controlling the battle. Human skill amplified into mythic legend. By late afternoon, the valley lay measured, observed, and dominated. Artillery striking with precision. Infantry maneuvering flawlessly. Operators transmitting signals. Commanders relaying orders. Anticipation translated into decisive action. Small innovation. Monumental effect. Ordinary men transformed into a coordinated, unstoppable force. By late afternoon, the contrast between the defending unit and the enemy became unmistakable. 50 men, one small radio, orchestrating every movement with precision, artillery adjusting instantly, infantry repositioning flawlessly. The enemy, confident and numerous, faltered. Their plans fractured before engagement. Anticipation weaponized. Coordination elevated into near-mythic efficiency. Fact Army reports indicate that radio-equipped units could coordinate multiple batteries and infantry sectors simultaneously. First hit accuracy increased by 40–50%. Reaction times reduced from minutes to seconds. Suppression zones extended beyond conventional range. Casualties minimized. One portable device creating disproportionate tactical advantage. The enemy advanced. Formations precise on paper. Confident in numbers and firepower. Yet every movement anticipated. Every advance countered. Artillery striking where they had not yet arrived. Infantry repositioned before their flanks could form. Ordinary soldiers elevated by technology into a lethal, synchronized force. Anticipation turned into a tangible weapon. Corporal Jenkins tapped the key. Static crackled. Orders transmitted. Artillery shells landing with exact precision. Infantry advancing in perfect timing. The enemy staggered. Confusion spreading through ranks. Confidence fracturing. Their calculated certainty replaced by doubt. Anticipation weaponized. Ordinary men executing maneuvers that seemed preordained. Lieutenant Harris crouched behind the operator. Binoculars scanning the valley. Armored vehicles stalled. Infantry hesitated. The radio humming faintly. Each pulse connecting observation, command, and action. Anticipation codified into operational control. The battlefield alive, yet orchestrated. Ordinary men transformed into an unstoppable organism. Fact Layer 2. Analysis confirms that radio-equipped units maintain superior first strike capability. Real-time situational awareness. Artillery corrected mid-flight. Infantry repositioned seamlessly. Enemy maneuvers disrupted before contact. Losses minimized. One small device amplifying human skill into strategic dominance. Anticipation weaponized. Corporal Diaz adjusted the antenna. Listening, transmitting. Orders executed. Artillery landing preemptively. Infantry advancing flawlessly. Coordination transforming the battlefield into a network of precision and control. Anticipation dictating every move. Ordinary soldiers elevated to mythic efficiency. Folklore Layer memoirs describe the surreal effect. We fired where they would be, not where they were. Bullets intersected paths before thought. The hills themselves seemed alive. The radio, our unseen hand, the ridge, our instrument. Coordination, anticipation, and technology fused. Ordinary men transformed into a legendary force. The sergeant whispered adjustments. Battery shift to Sector 5. Monitor the northern ridge. Relay all enemy sightings. Soldiers responded instantly. Rhythm of fire and movement synchronized. The battlefield controlled. Anticipation codified. Every pulse decisive. Ordinary men made extraordinary. Fact Layer 3. Tactical reports confirm that units with radios consistently outperformed non-equipped units. Reaction times reduced by 60 to 70%. Artillery accuracy improved significantly. Infantry maneuvers coordinated across sectors. Enemy movement disrupted. Casualties minimized. One small device dictating the outcome of an entire engagement. Anticipation weaponized. Human skill multiplied. The enemy faltered. Commanders shouting orders, squads scattering, arcs of fire overlapping, leaving no safe approach. Psychological impact of unseen coordination devastating before engagement. Anticipation weaponized. Human skill amplified. Ordinary soldiers executing lethal maneuvers. One small device determining the battle's tempo and outcome. Lieutenant Harris surveyed the valley. Enemy formations retreating. Shadows disappearing. The radio still pulsing. Transmitting observation, coordinating movement, shaping action. Anticipation codified. Ordinary soldiers elevated into an unstoppable synchronized network. Folklore Layer 2. Letters and memoirs recounted the almost supernatural precision. We knew their moves before they made them. Bullets intersecting invisible corridors. The ridge alive with intent. The radio became legend. Human skill amplified into mythic efficiency. Coordination and anticipation merged. Ordinary men transformed into unstoppable force. By evening, the valley lay under complete control. Artillery striking as planned. Infantry maneuvering seamlessly. Operators transmitting signals. Commanders relaying orders. Anticipation translated into decisive action. One small innovation. Monumental effect. Ordinary men transformed into a coordinated, unstoppable force. The sun dipped below the horizon. Heat fading. Shadows long. Each pulse of the radio dictating the rhythm, the tempo, and the outcome of the engagement. Anticipation codified. Human skill amplified. One small device determining the fate of hundreds. Ordinary soldiers elevated into legend. As dusk settled over the ridge, the valley quieted beneath the fading sun. 50 men, one small radio, had transformed the battlefield. Enemy formations, once confident, staggered and faltered. Officers shouted, soldiers hesitated. Every prediction, every calculation shattered. Anticipation weaponized. Coordination elevated into decisive mastery. Fact after action reports confirmed that radio-equipped units inflicted up to 70% of enemy casualties before close engagement. First strike accuracy significantly higher than non-equipped units. Suppression zones extended beyond expected range. Response times compressed from minutes to seconds. One device multiplying the operational impact of dozens. Tactical dominance established before contact. The radio pulsed gently, each transmission guiding artillery, infantry repositioning, enemy movements anticipated and countered. The ordinary elevated into extraordinary. Human skill amplified. A single device orchestrating lethal precision. Anticipation translated into reality. The battlefield controlled. Lieutenant Harris surveyed the valley. Armored vehicles stalled infantry, scattered confidence shattered. The ridge secure. Operators transmitting messages, commanders relaying orders, anticipation codified. Ordinary men elevated into a synchronized, unstoppable network. Folklore Layer soldiers later recalled the surreal effect. We moved as one. Bullets intersected paths before thought. Hills seemed alive. The radio our heartbeat, the ridge our instrument. Human skill, coordination, and anticipation fused. The legend of the radio forged in real time. Corporal Diaz tapped the key. Orders transmitted. Artillery corrected mid-flight. Infantry advancing flawlessly. One small device dictating action across the battlefield. Anticipation weaponized. Ordinary men transformed into a coordinated, unstoppable force. Fact Layer 2. Tactical and engineering analyses confirm superior situational awareness. Artillery adjustments mid-flight, infantry repositioned seamlessly, enemy formations disrupted, casualties minimized, one device amplifying human skill into operational dominance. Anticipation codified, execution flawless. The sergeant issued adjustments. Battery shift to Sector 4, monitor the northern ridge, relay all sightings. Soldiers responded instinctively. Rhythm of fire and movement synchronized. The battlefield controlled. Every pulse decisive. Ordinary men made extraordinary. The enemy faltered further. Fragmented, disoriented. Arcs of fire intersecting, leaving no safe approach. Psychological impact compounded physical losses. Anticipation weaponized. Human skill amplified. Ordinary soldiers executing maneuvers that seemed preordained. One small device controlling the tempo, timing, and outcome of the engagement. Lieutenant Harris observed from the ridge. Enemy formations retreating. Shadows disappearing. The radio humming softly. Transmitting observation, coordinating movement, shaping action. Anticipation codified. Ordinary soldiers elevated into legend. Folklore Layer 2. Memoirs recounted almost supernatural precision. We knew their moves before they made them. Bullets intersecting invisible corridors. Hills alive with intent. The radio became legend. Coordination and anticipation merged. Ordinary men transformed into an unstoppable mythic force. By nightfall, the valley lay under complete control. Artillery silent. Infantry regrouped. Antennas checked. Logs completed. Echoes of coordination and skill lingering. Anticipation, preparation, and discipline forged legend. One small device determining the outcome of war. The sun dipped completely. Shadows long. Each pulse of the radio dictating rhythm, tempo, and outcome. Anticipation codified. Human skill amplified. The small device, unassuming yet decisive, had determined the fate of hundreds. Ordinary men transformed into legend. Night had fallen over the ridge. The valley bathed in pale moonlight. 50 men, one small radio, and a battlefield transformed. Artillery silent. Rifles resting. Yet the echo of the day lingered. Anticipation, coordination, and skill had reshaped terrain and destiny. Human ingenuity amplified through a single portable device. Ordinary soldiers elevated into legend. Fact post-battle reports confirm that radio-equipped units achieved decisive operational dominance. First strike success extended suppression zones, minimized casualties. One small device amplifying dozens of soldiers' effectiveness. Anticipation codified. Tactical control achieved before enemy could react. Corporal Jenkins lowered the key, eyes scanning the horizon. Every pulse had directed movement and fire. The battlefield silent, yet alive with echoes of lethal precision. Ordinary men transformed, anticipation weaponized, human skill amplified. One device determining the outcome of hundreds. Folklore Layer soldiers later wrote, "The hills seemed alive with our voices. Every pulse guided destiny. Bullets finding their mark before thought. The radio our unseen hand, the ridge our instrument. Coordination, anticipation, and technology fused. Ordinary men transformed into a mythic, unstoppable force." The moon rose higher, casting silver light across the valley. The radio at rest. Yet its presence felt, anticipation, coordination, skill, all magnified. Ordinary men transformed. One small innovation creating monumental consequence. A tiny device deciding the outcome of war. Some lessons written in signal waves, others in silence. Anticipation weaponized. Human skill amplified. The legend enduring. The next story begins where the last echo faded.